This video is brought to you by Sporlan, quality, integrity, and tradition. Today we're replacing this threshold. There's a threshold missing here. You can see the red heads that were down there holding it. It fell off. But it's not just as simple as replacing that. Ice has gotten under this landing. So we got to get the landing up, get all the ice melted, then get the landing put back down. Then I got a new threshold made over there. Stainless steel screws, anchors into the ground, all that good stuff. So it'll be a little process. So I made a new threshold and I drilled all the holes, but it's important. I'm using number 8 screws, okay? I get this to center. But you got to make sure that the holes are bigger than the screws because you don't want the screws touching the metal, but they're also not too big that the pan head won't cover the hole. So that's going to be good. Now we just got this up and you can clearly see all the ice under there and that ice buildup. So we need to get that ice broken down and completely gone and dried up. We'll reseal it with silicone and then that way this won't be lifting up anymore. And that's probably what caused that original threshold to come off. They just got ice in there. This is from them probably washing the box out with water or something. So I keep this grip tape. I used the last of it on this and I got the smaller stuff right here, but it's perfect for these thresholds. So I just utilized what I had, put it on there. That way it kind of helps from slipping. And then this right here, we're hitting this guy with a MAPP gas torch to try to dry out the wood as best as possible. And then we're cleaning off the other landing, whatever, and just kind of moving along. And then we're gonna seal everything with silicone like crazy. This wood has like a layer like of permafrost or whatever. So we just kind of heat it up and then hit it with a putty knife and it kind of scrapes it out. Granted, it's a plastic putty knife, but let's try again. And then we're just working our way down and then we'll kind of heat it up till it changes color and just trying to dry it out as best as possible. So that's about as good as it's going to get. It's kind of a mixture of an adhesive and then there was ice on top of it. But that's pretty good. We'll make sure we seal the other one down, silicone the corners and stuff. So we're just going to work on getting the old silicone out of the corners. If I'd have known this one was going to have to come off, I'd have probably had a new one of those made too, but oh well, it is what it is. We can't make this thing perfect. All right, we got this prepped as much as possible. Now we lay the threshold down and we got to mark the holes. So I marked it down here on the concrete and I got to pre-drill those with concrete drill bits and then put plastic anchors down in there. That way the number 8 screws can grab, but we want it to be nice and good all the way. Always paying attention to your things. I typically don't have these drilled with holes when I have them custom made because oftentimes we got to do it the way we need to do it. I also went in and ground down all the red heads that were there and we're going to cover those completely. So we'll put this down, get it drilled, then we'll lift it up. It'll be on off a couple times because then we got to put silicone underneath it and seal it all up permanently after we put that landing back on. Go ahead and pull it out. And then what you're going to do is take that drill bit and figure out how deep you went. Double check it, so find the depth. Oh yeah, that's plenty deep enough. Good. Okay, vacuum out the stuff. We can put the anchor in there and then we'll move on to the next one. All right, so we got to get in here and we got to seal up these gaps before we put it down. So we're just going to load it up full of clear silicone and just overwhelm the inside of that. That way, you know, it prevents anything else from getting in there and potentially starting to form and lift up the plywood, you know. And then we'll go ahead and run a bead all right here, all the way across, and this won't be seen, but at least it's just sealing everything up. Went crazy with silicone. Now we're going to put the landing back down, seal this up real good, and we'll clean it up with the threshold when we're done. We did a test fit and we drilled all the screws for the threshold. Now we're going to pull it off, clean it up, and silicone underneath it, and then lay it down for one last time. So there's lots of on-offs and test fits and everything. And when you're tightening these things on, I typically don't tighten the screws. I just start them all and then you tighten them once they're in. We laid down a bunch of silicone so we can put down the threshold one more time and then we'll just have to silicone underneath the edges, but it should be good to go. We just want to make sure that you got good gaps, you know, where it's going to fill right there. So I got a little crazy with the silicone, but I think I can kind of clean it up. If you just use some water or some glass cleaner with ammonia is the best thing. You spray it on there and then the silicone will only stick to the surface where it's at, and you can clean it up real good. But sometimes you can do it with water too. But we didn't put any in here because I put enough that it's hard to see, but it's squeegeeing out. And that's what you want, especially at the grout lines. You want to make sure that there's plenty of silicone under there to keep water from getting underneath. All right, so they got this cleaner right here. So all you do is spray it and then just wipe it, and it doesn't allow the silicone to go where you don't want it to. See, it only stays where you want it. So, and try not to be too crazy about it. It's not going to be perfect. And then just wipe it down when you're done. Cool, looks good. We'll do the other side and we'll dry it off a little bit more. It's not perfect, but it turned out pretty nice to where it's just down in there. It's over in that corner, sealing up that hole. Same thing over here. Again, it's never going to be absolutely perfect, so get over that. But it looks good. Now we're going to get on to changing the door sweep. We've got a heated door sweep and a door gasket for this guy. So this unit has a dart gasket, and what's happening is the door's getting jacked up. Notice the gap is really big. We're low on the lower gap, but it gets smaller over here, and then it gets bigger, and it's the same all the way up and down. It's going smaller, bigger. So in that case, the door is damaged, so the normal gasket isn't going to work. So what we're actually having to do is cut off the dart, the inside dart. So there's still an outside right there, but there's nothing on the inside. We're working on this one right now. So this is a trick you have to do sometimes, and trust me, I've already soaked it in hot water and all that fancy stuff. It's beyond, you can't get them in. We're not hitting them with mallets. This will snap in like butter now, and it'll stay in too. Having some issues with the door closing, so what we're doing actually is loosening the hinges, and I put the airbag tools under there. We're gonna lift the door up a little bit and then see if we can snug it back down with the door lifted up higher. We'll also get this corner right here and kind of wedge it out too to kind of get us an even gap, because it's not very even. Notice it's super thick over here. So we put a new door sweep on the bottom. Now I'm going to highly suggest they let me change the hinges. That's not part of this, but after we put the new gasket on, it's struggling. We ended up having to pull the magnet out of this side, which is normal, but the hinges themselves, I didn't realize, like that door, they all need to be drilled out. But regardless, it's shutting. Everything's cool. Looks about as good as it's gonna get. So that's it for now.